Welcome back, everybody. It's Joseph here with my review of Penny Dreadful City of Angels, Episode 8. So, we have lingering effects of Episode 7. We have Maria put in a weird position because now she has to cater to Elsa and Peter Kraft and the family that she brought in to take over. We also have Councilman Townsend dealing with his issues of his homosexuality, but also his fight against Beverly. And we also have Detective Vega dealing with his opposition against the police racism, but at the same time against the killing of Officer Riley. So let's take a look. So we have Councilman Townsend confronting Beverly. And Beverly and him get into an argument with regards to his racism and his building of the Royal Cycle Parkway. And she has issued a recall against him. And in that argument, she reveals that she knows that he's homosexual. She gives him an innuendo, and he's kind of frightened by that. But that didn't stop him. He gets into another argument that same day with Detective Mitchner, who calls him on his meeting and dinner with the Nazis. But he plays ignorant, doesn't know what he's talking about, and basically tells Detective Mitchner that, get out of my office. Next time you come, you have to have a warrant. And then we have Councilman Townsend, again, indulging in his proclivities, and takes his Nazi lover, Kurt, into a underground gay club speakeasy, where all the wealthy town's homosexuals gather, and basically it's a nightclub. They dance with same-sex dances, but there's an alarm that goes off that triggers a possible raid. And once that alarm goes off, they switch partners, start dancing with members of the opposite sex. And I guess this was kind of the status quo back in the day when this kind of lifestyle was severely looked down upon. And so you have constantly hiding and going in back alleys to basically show their affection for one another. Now, getting back to Peter Kraft and Elsa and Maria, is that this all ties in together. And that's the interesting part of this series, is that everything is intertangled, or kind of this secret web of deception, deceit, and all leads to the same issues throughout this whole series is racism, and evilness, and how their correlation and how they're tied together. So when Elsa comes in to Peter Kraft's home, she basically slowly starts taking over, starts demanding, and tries to put it in a demure, nice way, but it's always subtle jabs. She asks Maria, well, how do you say lemon in Spanish? They have the conversation. She goes, oh, well, that's simple enough. Then she goes and proceeds to tell Maria, listen, I don't want any Mexicans here in front of the house talking to you. I don't want the neighborhood to start questioning why we have Mexicans in front of our yard. Again, a nod to the racism. She goes on to tell Maria to watch the kids, because here she and Peter Kraft have to go out that evening. So Peter Kraft and Elsa go to a German Bund meeting where they're discussing the Nazi agenda. Peter Kraft gets an argument with one of the Bund leaders, which proceeds to another argument with him and Elsa, and why Elsa tells Peter Kraft, why didn't you stand up for yourself and fight back? And Peter Kraft reveals the secret. And the secret is that he isn't Peter Kraft. It's a name he took on when he came to the United States. He's Peter Krupp. And Krupp, K-R-U-P-P, is an old German family company. It's a family name, but it's a company that makes all the weaponry for the Third Reich, and had been doing weaponry for the last 4 centuries. It's a 400-year-old company that currently is providing, in this time frame, the cannons, the armor, every part of the armor, the bullets, machine guns, tanks for the Third Reich, and he wants to separate himself from that. He said he saw the destruction. He's trying to create a peaceful Nazi Germany, if you could even call any peaceful Nazi Germany. He wants to recreate that aspect of the Nazi regime in the United States. We also have, as I mentioned before, you have Frank, who's the Demon Seed's child. Now, you got to remember, Frank is also Magda in disguise as a child, and she's trying to corrupt Tommy. So every little thing that a child does is being highlighted by Frank, and the little evil deeds as he does as he killed Tommy, Peter Kraft's son's hamster. And now Frank, who knows Maria and knows about the coyote that she wears to protect him against evil, is baiting Maria and kind of baits her and shows up in this ghostly way in front of her and starts giving apparitions to her. And one of them is that he becomes Maria's ex-husband who passed away in a deadly fire, which Magna created in episode 1. Maria catches on because during that apparition of that ghostly figure, her ex-husband or her dead husband tells Maria to go away from here, that evil cannot be defeated. That's when Maria realizes that this is a false apparition and that it's really Frank and Magda presenting this ghostly figure to Maria to convince her to walk away from the Kraft family. And she basically fights back. That doesn't work, so then the child, as Elsa and Peter Kraft are coming home, burns his hand on the stove purposely to put the blame on Maria. That's another mechanism that we're using to try to get her fired. Now that backfires because unlike Peter Kraft's weak side that couldn't even stand up to his first wife, he resists firing Maria, and in front of Elsa, who's pressuring him to do that, tells her how much she's appreciated and actually gives her a raise, which is a $5 raise. And that essentially is worth about $100 in today's money. And you see Elsa kind of look at him like, okay, what do I do next? I've tried this, I tried that, and it didn't work. And we also have Detective Vega with Detective Mitchner individually going after the Nazi sympathizers who they saw at the city council meeting having dinner with the Nazi operatives. So Detective Vega confronts Adelaide, and when he's in her office, if you remember, Adelaide's sister Molly's mother, and while he's in her office, he sees the same map that's in Councilman Townsend's office and that same map that's in the Nazi operative construction company called Via Hermosa. So they're all tied in together. So Adelaide plays dumb, thinking, well, this Mexican doesn't know. I'm going to use my wit and charm to get over on him. But he knows better. But she does take him to Sister Molly baptizing a group of people, basically an excuse to tell him that Sister Molly has secrets that he will never know about. But in the process of doing that, he sees Sister Molly baptizing someone, and it turns out that she's baptizing Detective Vega's sister, Josefina. So that causes tension. He leaves and later confronted by Sister Molly coming to his house later that evening. So the story wraps up is that during that confrontation, Detective Mitchell knocks on Detective Vega's home, says, we got to go. I found this information out. Let's go to Villa Hermosa, break in and see what we could find about the Nazis' plans. So while they're in front of Detective's home, they get rifled out by machine gun fire towards Detective Mitchell, Detective Vega, basically trying to kill the detectives. Now, I can only assume that it's Kurt, because he's working for the Nazi operative who owns Villa Hermosa. You don't see him. All you see is a machine gun going off in the alleyway right across the street from Detective Vega's home. And so this episode leaves off there. Now, what I can say is that unlike the previous episodes where you have these dramatic things happen for the next episode. This was a little subdued. My initial thoughts is that hopefully this series will continue multiple seasons, because they're slowly building up to a hot point and an eruption of action. Now, we always get glimpses of that throughout the whole series of the first season, but we don't come into a full culmination of those actions. And so this was an episode that wasn't great, but it did have a couple of the golden nuggets. But at the very least, this series has great acting and great writing that doesn't leave you disappointed. You know, as a society, I think we're used to these high action, fast paced programming. But this is building up. And while that part of the series is building up, you have quality acting, quality writing, and it compels you to keep watching. So keep it here for episode 9 review. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time for episode 9 review. Thank you.